Hey, good morning and happy Monday, Obsessed with Diamond team. How are you this morning? It is about 10:19 Eastern Standard Time on Monday morning. We're going to keep this concise, although I tend to ramble, because I want to get you back to the National Wake Up Call in time which is 11 a.m. here, so that you can hear Bonnie. Yeah, it is Bonnie Engel. No, is it Bonnie? It's Bonnie Engel this week, right? Sometimes I forget. But I want to get you off in time at 11 a.m. because I want to hear her speak about that as well. So we're going to keep it, I know I talk a lot, but we're going to try to keep it as concise as possible as we can today. So how are you on this Monday? If you are doing 80-day obsession, you are starting week 3, phase 2, and today is booty day. You are down here with me in my gym, which is AKA my basement, and I'll be pressing play in just a little bit as well too. So there's just something like starting a week with booty day, right? I mean, who would have thought that we'd be getting such amazing results from those loops back there and those sliders? It's crazy, isn't it? So if you've already pressed play, I was in the Coach Test group, but I gotta tell you guys, probably because it's 80 plus days of workouts, I forget what the workouts are. So every time we do a workout, because every workout is new, and Autumn is in our basement as our personal trainer, or in your living room, or wherever it might be, every time we do a workout, I'm like, oh crap, I totally forgot about that. So if you have already done today's booty workout, number 1, drop some kind of emoji, like thumbs up, whatever, so that I know who's already worked out. But number 2, don't tell me anything about it, because I know it's going to be hard and I don't even want to know yet. I'll just tackle it when it gets there, drink my Energize, and get after it. But looking forward to doing that in just a little bit. Can you guys believe that we're already into week 3 of this second phase? It's so crazy because so many people I know are like, oh my gosh, 80 days, it feels so long. Well, we're going to work out every day anyway. Might as well just be doing it to the same program. And here we are halfway through already. So make sure you're staying on that and staying accountable to your nutrition, staying plugged in with your challengers, and sharing your results from this program, both externally and internally. Please don't only look for the external pictures and the before and afters to share, because sometimes those don't tell the whole story. Yeah, sometimes it's where that our change can happen, but the befores and afters that are only physical, those aren't the only changes that are happening. And if you are sticking to this program and you are sticking to that time nutrition, chances are your results are also happening internally as well. And those results are just as important, and usually they're longer lasting. So please share those results as well. Show people that you are continuing to show up for this program. And that's what I want to talk to you about today, the concept of showing up. This has been a really important concept in my life, especially in my life as a Beachbody coach. Those 2 words and this concept, even before it crystallized into those 2 words, that mindset of showing up has been important to me personally, important to me professionally, and certainly carried over into the culture that I'm trying to create on my team. And it's just the idea that even when it's inconvenient, especially when it's inconvenient, but even when it's inconvenient, the stuff that might seem optional in life, we say it's mandatory. And we continue to show up for ourselves and for the people around us, for our families. And that mindset truly can change everything. I was lucky enough to have a dad who sort of embodied this idea of showing up without ever saying it. And I think a lot of that came from his military background. He was in the Navy for 40 years, both active duty and reserve. And he was also a person who kept a lot of, this is also where my love of words comes from, of quotes and like mantras and sayings and things. And he would keep them on his desk. And so he was embodying this idea of showing up in life for your family, for your coworkers, for whatever, for your goals, your dreams, without ever saying that it was important. And I grew up seeing the extra stuff that he did, the times that he would show up for people, for events that he very could have easily stayed home for, and it was just sort of part of his nature. So I grew up kind of having that idea, that mindset in my life that showing up was important. And then as I got into college and my first professional job as a high school English teacher, I just was the one who would, I liked to play a little game, and could my car be the first one in the parking lot? I just wanted to show up at school early for my students. I wanted to be at their activities, at their football games, at the basketball games, whatever it might be. I wanted to make sure that they knew that I was there showing up for them. And there's something, and I'm kind of thinking about this and how to articulate it best as I'm talking to you, because there's something about that live presence that really epitomizes us showing up. It doesn't mean that we're always live, because certainly there's lots and lots of circumstances now that sometimes just a phone call is us showing up. Sometimes a text or a quick email or something, that's us showing up in someone's life without it being there live. But that concept of showing up live and really having your physical presence there, I even notice now with my daughters in high school, they notice when their teachers or the principal or someone who is an important figure in their life shows up at their events, when the principal shows up at their show choir competition, when the principal shows up here, when their teacher shows up at their play, or whatever it might be, that physical presence showing up live makes such a huge impact on people. And I think that we forget about that. And as I got into being a Beachbody coach, and part of it came from that mindset sort of instilled in me as a kid. And then the other part of this concept of showing up came from the fact that I started as a fitness instructor. So long before I was a Beachbody coach, I was a fitness instructor, and then I was a master trainer. And that idea of coming together, and it probably really also happened in my classroom when I was teaching, because that moment when you see something click for your students and they get it, that doesn't happen on a Zoom call or a webinar or in any other way except when you're there physically with someone live. And then as I transitioned out of teaching high school and got into fitness, and that moment in your class when the music is on and they've got it and everything is connecting and flowing, and they walk out of that class feeling like they can literally just fly. They have superpowers now because of that class. That's because they showed up live. And so I started understanding that early on as a Beachbody coach, that mindset was going to be crucial in this business. There's a lot of pieces of this business that I did not understand in the beginning, and a lot of mistakes that I made. There's still pieces of the business I don't understand today, but I did very firmly and very early on grasp the fact that showing up live 10 years ago when we started was going to be vitally important to the growth of the business and the growth of our team. And this doesn't apply as much now, but then 10 years ago, I was super committed to building a very local presence with my team. I wanted to be able to have my coaches over to my house for lunch, and we did. Or we do potluck dinners, or we'd meet for dinner, or whatever it might be, and we could do that live and in person. And because of that, because of those live experiences, the team started to grow, and that came from showing up. And these people continued to show up, and they continued to show up live, and that's how our team started to grow. And as I watched that happen, it became very evident to me that the people that showed up and continued to show up were the people that were going to do something with this business. Not the people that did something the most quickly, not the people that had the most ginormous numbers, or the people that recruited the most coaches, or sold the most challenge packs, or had the biggest challenge groups. It wasn't those people that were always going to do something with this business. It was the people who continued to show up. day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, these are the people that continue to show up. That those are the people that were going to do something with the business because they understood the power of their presence, both live and just as being an engaged, participatory member of the team. They started to understand the power of the show up. Back in the day of network marketing, even back in the day when Beachbody first started, they would have meetings, weekly meetings, business opportunity meetings that were live, and people would come and they do the business opportunity. And I remember very clearly, I will never forget this, one of my mentors 10 years ago would talk about these opportunity meetings. And we don't really do that as much anymore because we have social media, but we would talk about these opportunity meetings. And he would always say, you've got to go to the weekly meeting. Whatever it is that your team is doing, you've got to go to that weekly meeting. And I would say, why is that? And he would say, because sometimes you need the meeting and sometimes the meeting needs you. Sometimes you need the meeting, sometimes the meeting needs you. So let's talk about that in the concept of showing up. That means sometimes you, as a coach, as a person, as a human with lots of stuff going on in your life, need to show up to whether it's your team's live event, your team's webinar, just a conversation with your coach. Sometimes you need to do the showing up because you personally need it. You need your bucket filled again. You have to keep your fire lit so that you can do that for others. So sometimes you need to go to the meeting because you need it personally. Other times you need to go to the live meeting, the live event, the live whatever it might be, because somebody else in that room needs your energy. It's flowing for you. It's working for you. You're having success. Somebody else needs to feed off that. So you need to go for someone else. And I thought, wow, that is so powerful because in both cases, it's the power of showing up. And the beautiful part about the power of showing up, and this is sort of what I got from my dad growing up. This is sort of what I got from being the first person and the first teacher in the parking lot. It's definitely what I got from being a group exercise instructor and being a master trainer. Because let me tell you that my dad certainly wasn't the most talented person in his field. As I said, he was in the Navy. He was also a civil engineer. He wasn't the most talented person in his field. I absolutely was not the best high school English teacher. I am not the best fitness instructor, but the power of continuing to show up, that mindset, that concept, that takes no talent. So as I said, the coaches who build this business are the ones that continue to show up because that mindset takes no talent. You don't need a special skill. You don't need a special talent to show up. My dad might not have been the most talented engineer, but he always showed up. I was definitely not the most talented high school English teacher, but I showed up. I'm absolutely not the most talented fitness instructor or trainer or anything. I just keep showing up. And that mindset of showing up takes no talent, which means anyone can do it, right? Which also means anyone can build this business. Which also means that if you're struggling or having challenges, that it's within our power to change it. Because one of the key pieces to building this business takes no talent. It just takes showing up. I don't need to know how to do incredibly complex talents or have some amazing special skill set. Because the pieces of this business that count and that we can duplicate take no talent. And one of the most important ones is showing up. Sometimes the meeting needs you, sometimes you need the meeting. Either way, your presence in showing up takes no talent. That is duplicatable. That is buildable. That is what will create a successful business that will also create a successful life. It is so easy now to Netflix your way out of life. and sit on the couch and not even show up, and put something out on social media and allude to the fact that maybe you're doing something, but you're not doing anything. How many people do you know in your life right now? Think about it. You could make a list. I can make a list right now in my head. How many people do you know in your life right now who, if you looked at their life 2 or 3 or 4 years ago, probably 10 years ago, if you looked at their life in the past and you looked at their life where they are right now, is it any different? I bet you can make a list of people whose life is exactly the same today as it was 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. And that's because they are not showing up. They're not showing up for themselves. They're not showing up for their families. They're not showing up for their life. And they're going to get to the end of their life and wonder where it went. And all along the way, they chose to not show up, because it is a choice. It takes zero talent to show up. No special skill set, no special talent. You simply make a choice. It doesn't take talent. It simply is your choice to show up. And what happens when we stop showing up is what I think sort of happens when, if you've ever heard Carl talk about, and I think this is so funny because I don't know if you know this, but we're a health and fitness company. And I've heard Carl say multiple times that working out is not his favorite. For some of us, we really like working out. I really like working out. It's never a problem for me to work out. There might be other things in my life I don't love so much, but I really like working out. Carl, who's the CEO of a health and fitness company, doesn't always love working out. Like the act of it. He loves what it does for him, and he loves making the solution accessible to people. And he's brilliant, but he doesn't always love the act of working out. And so he has said before that he sometimes is afraid to take a day off because not doing it that one day, he is so afraid that it will lead to him not showing up the next day, and because it becomes easier, right? When you don't show up that day, and then you don't show up that next day, and then not the next day, and then it becomes easier to just not show up. And we see that in our teams and in coaches that, oh, they missed that one Zoom or that one webinar, and then they miss the next one, and then they miss the next one, and then they miss the next one. And once they've not shown up that first time, it's just easy to keep not showing up, as if no one notices, as if we don't know that they're gone. And I think that's a sad statement too, because I think people sometimes feel like we won't miss them if they don't show up. And what I would hope all coaches understand is that everyone has something to bring to the table. And even if you're only bringing to the table your need to have your bucket filled, you showing up matters. And the person it matters most to is you. Absolutely, your presence is missed from the team. And absolutely, when I have an event and I have coaches that aren't there, I miss their energy and their vibe. But more importantly, they miss it. They miss out. They're not showing up for themselves. And I wonder sometimes if they think that the rest of the team just won't miss them. So maybe it's on us to remind them that we do, and that we do need their presence there. And that when they miss a day, they miss a webinar, they miss a Zoom, they miss a live event, that we're still inviting them to come back and to show up again, because we want their energy there. And more importantly, we want to have the opportunity to fill their bucket and keep their fire lit. Because once you miss that first one, it's real easy to continue to not show up. So I'll tell you a story about my own self not showing up and what I've learned from that. So as with most of you, I'm sure, the reason why I build this business is for my family. We were poor. There's just no other word for it. Oddly, my husband has 2 master's degrees and a professional job, and I was a high school English teacher. And when we decided that I would stay home with baby number 3 to not pay childcare, it was definitely a struggle. And this became a way for us to clearly to earn income, and everything that I've done with this business has been for and about giving my family the opportunity to say yes and the opportunity to have incredible experiences and to really create the life that we want to create. And one of those pieces in our life that is important for us as a family is travel. My parents traveled a lot. My husband's parents, you guys, just got back this past weekend from, your jaws are going to drop because mine did, a 6-week-long cruise. I'm not making that up. 6 weeks long. Now, you need to like your spouse a lot to be in a cruise ship room for 6 weeks. But they, like, every destination on their cruise was like a one-stop, and they were seeing it all. It was amazing. So my husband and I grew up with travel in our lives. We knew we wanted to provide that for our children. And before Beachbody, that was really not going to be an option unless we were going to stay with one of them. And staying with my in-laws and really even staying with my parents, that's not really a vacation for your family. And that's not experiences that I wanted to have solely for my children. I wanted them to have a really broad, diverse look at the world, big picture perspective. So travel was really important to me. And as we got into the business, as you all know, we have opportunities to earn these incredible travel trips, like places that I would never have chosen to go. And we get to go on these trips. And when the Success Club trips started coming around, I've earned every single one of them. This is my sharing where I didn't always show up. I've only been on 2. And the reason why I stopped myself from showing up in my head, it's not a reason, it was just what I was telling myself, was because I don't want to travel without my family. I work this business and I build this business for my family. So I told myself and I told my coaches, well, I don't want to travel without my family. And because the trips take place when they take place, my husband is in spring football, so he can never go with me. My husband can't go on anything except occasionally he can show up for a day or 2 at Summit, depending on what it is. It just is what it is. It's our life. It's fine. So he cannot go on the Success Club trips because it's spring football. I have 3 daughters who are in school, and you can't pull them out for weeks at a time, especially in high school and especially if they're involved in activities. So I would not go on the Success Club trips. I went to Disney, because Disney. And Jessie, my youngest, she was in grade school at the time. Is that right? Or middle school? It had to be middle school. I can't remember, but I think it was middle school. And I could pull her out, and I only took her out for 3, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then we came back on Sunday. So I pulled her out for 3 days, which is a little easier to do in middle school, but she's the only one, and she's the only one that's ever been with me on a Success Club trip. So I did that trip, and then I didn't, and I didn't, and I didn't, and I didn't. And then because I was on the coach advisory board, I felt very strongly that I needed to be in Punta Cana. So I went to the Punta Cana trip. And my friends, that trip was a revelation to me. I was so strongly reminded in that trip, just because of some opportunities I had because of it, but more importantly, because of how I felt when I left there, how important it is to show up even when you don't feel like it and even when it's convenient. And more importantly, how we're not showing up, how us not showing up is so much more than just about us. I was crafting this thing in my head about, with some truth to it, but also a lot of just stuff in my head about, I only wanted to travel with my family, and I wasn't going to go without my family, and I'm building this business for my family, and so I'm not going to go on the Success Club trip. But you know what I was doing by not showing up? I was telling my coaches that it was okay for them not to show up. And shame on me. How dare I tell them that it's okay to work hard and earn this trip and then not show up for it? And it's okay to take a couple days away from my girls and my husband if they can't go, because it's not about the vacation. I can vacation when I want to vacation and take them with me. On that Success Club trip, it's about showing up to show my coaches, my new coaches, the same as I was when I watched those trips happen. I think the first one that happened, maybe even before I was a coach, was Hawaii or something like that. And My job is to show my coaches what's possible. And when I wasn't showing up for those Success Club trips, my teams would go sometimes, but I was saying to my new coaches that those trips aren't important and they're not important enough to work for, and you don't need to show up for them. And how dare I do that? And I went to Punta Cana last year. I went without my family. I took a girlfriend, one of my best girlfriends, and she went with me. And nothing really remarkable or spectacular happened. I mean, I had an opportunity to talk on stage for a minute, but it was like, I don't know, the workouts in the morning and talking to Carl and just being there, I went, oh, I've been so dumb, because me not showing up to those trips is not about me. Me not showing up to those trips is saying to my coaches, these aren't important and you shouldn't have to show up to them. Well, if that's the truth, if something that Beachbody Corporate is putting on is not important, then what's to say that my coaches then suddenly think that an event that I'm putting on isn't important? Super Saturday is not important. A live training event that we put on isn't important. A Zoom, a webinar, that's not important, because I wasn't showing up for those Success Club trips. And how dare I? So that is a strong lesson that I really learned last year, that as much as I preach and talk about and believe in and try to embody that spirit of showing up, because it takes no talent to show up, I wasn't always living that. And you can't talk about it unless you live it. So that, and sometimes life has to give you a really powerful reminder that, hey, you need to pay attention. And I got that last year in Punta Cana. So I'll be in the Riviera Maya this year, and I am taking Jesse out of school for 2 days, and Carmel High School is just going to have to deal with it. And I did sign up for the cruise next year, and I'm just sharing that with you because I need you to understand that it's one thing to learn the lesson, and then it's the other thing to take action from learning that lesson. So once we understand that the mindset and the concept of showing up takes no talent, and we understand how important it is, we have to act on it, because showing up really transpires every single day in everything that we do. It transpires in, do we get up in the morning when our alarm goes off? Like right away from the moment the alarm goes off, are we showing up for ourselves and telling ourselves that we're worth it to get up and get after this life that we want to create? Are we saying that by getting up out of bed when our alarm goes off and getting after it? And starting to really go after the day with passion and with fervor and drive. Are we making that statement? And then are we showing up for our nutrition by making our shake and making really good choices with our nutrition? Are we showing up for our families straight out of the gate in the morning by being present for a conversation, by maybe like I make Jessie a shake every single morning? That seems like a thing that a mom would do, but at the same time, I knock on the bathroom door, I hand her shake, I'm showing up. Every single day, I'm showing up with this idea that your nutrition is important to me. You are important to me, Jessie. I'm going to make you your shake every single day because I'm showing up. And especially when they get to be teenagers, ways to show up in their lives can be challenging because they think you're weird. So just that little showing up with a shake every day is the way I can show up for her. I take her to school every morning because that 10-minute drive on the way to school might only be 10 minutes, but I'm showing up for her by telling her that she's important enough for me to take to school. I come back, I'm going to show up for my challengers through daily emails, through our Facebook group, whatever. I'm going to show up for my team by making sure that I'm posting and engaging in our team page and maybe doing Facebook Lives. I'm going to show up for my family in other ways throughout the day. How can I help my family? Everything we do is a matter of showing up. And every time we show up, it's like we build that muscle. Because remember, it's not a talent, it's just a muscle. And every time we show up, that show up muscle gets a little bit stronger. When I showed up in Punta Cana last year, that muscle got a little stronger. And I got a very strong reminder that showing up is not for me and it's not about me. It's about the others in my life that I say I'm building this business for. And my family knows that I don't like to travel with them, and they know that going on those trips without them is bothersome to me. They know it's a little bit inconvenient to me. So what am I also teaching my daughters? That I do the things that are inconvenient. What's that say to them? you should do the things that are inconvenient. And going to Punta Cana might sound glamorous. They also know I'm not the typical mom that's sitting on the beach drinking the Mai Tai, that I would rather be with them, but that I see a bigger picture in the business. So I'm going on that trip because I think it's important and I'm showing up. So what does that say to them? It says to them that they should be showing up too. And I don't even have to connect that dot for them. They're seeing it in their life. When I'm showing up with my shake, when I'm going downstairs to the basement and pressing play, when no one's telling me to, when I'm showing up for my challengers, when I'm on a Zoom call, when I'm doing a live training for my team that no one's telling me to, Beachbody Corporate isn't telling me that I have to run live trainings for my team. That's how I can show up for them. When I'm doing that, my daughters are watching that too. You guys, everything's a bigger picture here. Everything is about so much more than us. It might start that way. I'm just gonna make a shake. I'm gonna press play and it's gonna be about my journey. That's short-sighted. And that's not, you can't replicate that down through your team because it's not always gonna be like that for everyone on your team. But a big picture everyone can have. Big goals and big dreams, everyone can have. And they can look different for everyone, and that's okay. Because all that's required to achieve those big goals and big dreams is that we show up. And we show up every single day. We show up when we don't want to. And I guarantee you, when you show up when you don't want to, I guarantee you something will happen that will remind you why you were there in the first place. I guarantee you. The harder it is to show up, the more it's worth it. We have a conference every fall. It used to be called Success Club Leadership Conference. I think it's just called Leadership Conference. And when the very first one happened in Dallas, Texas, I had qualified for it. And that particular event is always in the fall. And as I've shared with you, my husband is a football coach, so you can imagine what happens in the fall. It's football season. And I remember when I got invited to that particular event, it was the very first Success Club Leadership Conference ever. And I struggled in my head so much with going because I felt I don't miss home games unless one of the girls has something and I need to be there with them too. I don't miss home games. I am my husband's biggest supporter because that's what marriage is about. And I remember saying, my gosh, I don't know what I'm going to do because it's in the fall. And I really hemmed and hawed. And finally he said to me, well, you're the only one that has an issue with attending. You need to go. And I showed up to that event. And I've been fortunate enough to be invited to every leadership qualify for every leadership conference since we've had them. And I want you to know that every single year, that is the single hardest event for me to go to because it's football season. My husband is not home. We do not have family in the area. Now Jessie drives, but before this will be the first year that she drives. So for the past however many years, I've had to find rides. I've had to find places for them to stay. I had to make sure everything was taken care of. And I showed up every single time. And every single time it was the most inconvenient conference for me to get to. It was so hard and so challenging. And every single year, it's the best one that I go to. Every single year. Because it's inconvenient. So when we show up to the stuff that's hard, that's challenging, that's inconvenient, I guarantee you that will be the stuff that will be the game changer for us. And the more we continue to show up, the more that muscle grows and we get better at it. And we realize it takes no talent to do it. And we can share that with our teams. And as our teams continue to show up, they get better at it. And suddenly the life that is happening around us is the life that we are creating because we are showing up for it. So I know that's not something that's super tangible that you can write down and go, okay, I'm going to do this on Instagram or this on Facebook, or I'm going to have this set schedule or this. But I think that none of those logistical pieces matter if you don't have the big picture of this business, of your life, of your goals, of your dreams, of you and who you are becoming through this business. And those pieces all have to connect. We can have the most amazing systems in the world, and I am so glad that there are incredible coaches in this group, leaders that share their systems, because That's certainly something I learn from them all the time. And at the same time, we have to have the big picture, the goals, the dreams, and the vision. Because if you don't have the vision, it won't matter what your systems are. No one will stay with you because you're not sharing with them the potential and the possibility. You got to have both. You got to have the vision and you got to know how to get there. You can't just know how to get there without the vision. The potentials and the possibilities, the showing up every single day, that will make those logistics and those systems work. That will give them a reason to work. Why am I hitting Success Club? Why am I enrolling coaches? Let's talk about the big picture. And the more you show up, the more you understand the big picture. The more you show up for everything in your life, not just this business, but yes, in this business, the more you do that, the more momentum you create, the more momentum you have, the happier you are. Happy coaches are productive coaches. Productive coaches are happy coaches. If nothing's happening in your business, you feel like the business sucks. Probably not. Maybe you're just off your game and you need to show up. So I encourage you, if you haven't been showing up, if you've been half-assing something in your life, in your business, whatever, take a moment today and assess it. Is there stuff that needs to go off your plate so that you can show up for the stuff that's on your plate? Is there stuff you need to say no to so you can make sure you're showing up for the stuff that you say yes to? And when you say yes to that stuff, go all in. Commit to it. Don't just say the words, decide, commit, succeed. Live them and breathe them and embody them. And do that by showing up every single day in every single way for everything that you can possibly show up to. Not just for you. Do it for your coaches and your challengers so they start to see the possibility and the potential in this business. They will never see it if we don't show up. It's a lesson that I've learned. I want you to understand that the power of showing up is so vital. It's so vital. And we show up even when people don't tell us to. No one ever told me I needed to run a live training event when I started as a Beachbody coach. And we started doing that 10 years ago. And we just had another one on Saturday. And we had Keisha come out and talk. And she was absolutely incredible. No one told me to do that. I just started doing it. Do it for the stuff that no one even tells you to do. Show up. I promise when it's the most inconvenient and the most challenging to show up, that's when you'll get the most out of it. Show up. It takes no talent to show up. It just takes a decision. So make that decision, go all in and commit. It will, I promise, change your life. Now, go show up for the National Wake Up Call. Take lots of notes. We got two more weeks of this training left, and we want to see every single one of you diamond. That is also a decision that you choose to show up to accomplish. Let's make it a great Monday, the last Monday in February. Let's make it happen, guys. Talk to you later.